newest 5th generation of the Lexus RX is here, and in this review video, I'm going to tell you about all the changes, how this RX drive on the roads, and the good, the bad, and the ugly about this new 2023 Lexus RX350. Let's get started. All right, I'm on the road, so let me tell you more about this brand new RX and tell you about how it drives. First of all, let's talk about the outside. When Lexus introduced the spindle grille, people did not like it. And it took about a decade for people to get used to it. And the new RX is an evolution with that spindle grille. The front now has a weird nose that sticks out. And then that nose kind of blends into the new style spindle grille. So when you look at the new RX up front, it does look like it's similar to a RX, but it has a weirdly new nose design up front, and that's why it's controversial. And some people like it, some people don't like it, some people hate it. So it really depends on your taste. The new headlights have been redesigned. They're more sleek. Tri-beam headlights with this one that I'm driving right now looks good. You also have LED fog lamps underneath. However, when it comes to the back, I think the new RX has definitely been improved. I like the new back. I love the way you have the LED taillight bar that stretches from one side to the other and then blends into the new taillights. It looks really good, and the overall shape looks more futuristic. And you could tell if you look at the side that the profile, the silhouette to the RX still looks similar, but slightly different. It does look like there's more to the front. The hood area has been stretched, but the rear overhang has been decreased. And Lexus did that on purpose to increase cargo room and second row legroom, although the overall dimensions of the new RX is identical to the previous generation. Now, as for the inside, there's no question a new interior cabin to the RX has been greatly improved. It feels more luxurious in here, more connected, and it doesn't feel outdated like the last generation. So let's start out with the big eye catcher, and that is this giant screen. You could get the RX with a 9.8-inch screen or a 14-inch screen. I believe it was debuted with the NX, and it is a good one. It's very big, touchscreen, very responsive, very bright. Love the resolution, and of course you can configure so many things inside this brand new RX. You could spend a week looking at all the features, but more importantly, this touchscreen now gets rid of the touchpad so many people hated. Lexus stuck with this touchpad, touchscreen kind of combination, right, for so long. Finally, the touchpad is gone, and that is an absolutely fantastic thing. Now, there's one thing about the new interface that really bugs me that I'm putting it under the ugly category. You'll hear more about that later in this video. Now, there are other screens besides the infotainment screen. You do get a screen in your gauge cluster, so it's not fully digital like so many manufacturers these days give you. It's kind of like half. You get like a 8-inch screen inside, and it gives you the essential information. Also, you can configure RX with the digital rear view monitor, which is great. It still has HomeLink built in, but in case you have some tall passengers in the rear, you can see right past them, right? It's a nice screen, and I do like that as well. The rest of the cabin also has been updated. The fit and finish just looks a bit better. Overall feel is a little bit better. More soft material and leather inside. This one I'm testing also has some nice suede or Alcantara on the door handles and also on the seat backs, right? Just feels and looks great too. Lexuses usually are very quiet. This one is even more quiet, especially when I'm just, just cruising around. I do feel like there's no noise whatsoever from the outside, just a little bit from the engine. But as for wind noise, road noise, stuff like that, very minimal. And also the comfort of this RX has been improved in many ways, starting with the suspension. Lexus decided to revise the suspension setup so that it can handle the bumps and imperfections of the road better, even with the large 21-inch wheels, very little sidewalls on those tires. Still feels very comfortable. Not only the suspension, the seats have been improved as well, right? Nice and big. I talked about how they have a suede and leather combination. It's holding me in. I'm not sliding around, right? Good cushioning, the back bolster, bottom cushion, really nice. The seats in the back also greatly improved. I've owned a 4th generation RX for many years, and I can tell you the seats in the back, definitely more comfortable. They feel bigger, and also you can recline them. There's power recline function too now. So in case you want to take a little nap, you can recline all the way back, and it feels nice, but it's a comfortable seat no matter where you are in the back. And also there is improved legroom. So with this new generation Lexus, up the legroom a little bit, and even more cargo room too. So one of the biggest complaints about the RX is the size on the inside, and it has been improved. And the cargo room behind the second row has also increased in size. And take a look, there is a decent amount of size. Underneath, there's a little bit of hidden storage. You do also have 2 switches to fold down your second row. And when they fold down, they're not completely flat. There's a little elevation, but overall, there's a good amount of space for whatever you may want to throw back there. There's also a privacy cover as well. What's great about the RX, of course, are the new features that you get. The old one did have everything, but this new one has just a little bit more. The 360 view camera system can still be configured. Unfortunately, that software is still the outdated one from before. It does get the job done, but it takes quite a long time for it to circle around your RX. But there is a new parking feature, so it helps your RX park in basically any position you want. And it has a nice fancy animation telling you how it's gonna go. And basically it helps park your Lexus, not only parallel parking, but perpendicular parking. So it can take care of that. That's something new. Now, as for features, there's plenty of it inside this RX350. For passengers in the back, you do get heated and ventilated seats as options. Also, you get 2 USB ports. That's great. And sunshades. Up front, you also have 4 USB ports, wireless charger, memory seat, panoramic sunroof, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, hotspot capability, Wi-Fi. These are all features you can find inside the new RX. Now, as for the drive, I do think Lexus improved the RX. It was always very comfortable, very easy to drive a RX, and it's still the same. But I feel like it has been improved even more. The steering wheel has been updated. It has a nice feel overall. I like the new design. And, you know, just turning this RX, right, on local roads, the curves and bends, I feel like the RX has a nice balanced feel. The steering is light, but not too light. However, I do feel like maybe it did become a little bit lighter. Now, something that changed with this new generation is the powertrain. Now you have 4 different engines to choose from, one unreleased yet. But the base engine is now a 2.5 liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged that's producing about 275 horsepower and over 315 pound-feet of torque. So the horsepower does go down versus the last generation, which had a 3.5 liter V6, about 297 horsepower. I actually really like that engine because Lexus and Toyota has been using that for a long time, and it's a good engine. So with this new engine, you also improve upon fuel economy. You get about 2 miles more per gallon overall combined. So that's significant. Now, you do also have a hybrid, which is also utilizing a brand new powertrain, giving you about 246 horsepower and less torque, but fuel economy goes up substantially, almost 10 miles per gallon more overall combined versus a regular non-hybrid. But here's the kicker. The overall speed, 0 to 60, is about the same. That's the weird part. Okay, so I just accelerated from about 30 to 60 miles per hour. It was decent. Not quick, not slow, decent, right in the middle. So that 7.20 to 60, that feels about right. And also up to speed, I think it feels okay. It doesn't feel bogged down like the last generations. Now, if you wanted more power, you can opt for the 500H, which is taking this 2.5 liter turbocharged engine and then pairing it with electric motors, and you're getting about 360-ish horsepower. So far, I've told you about all the goodness to this brand new RX. What about some of the bad? Well, unfortunately, after spending a little time with this RX, there are a few bad things. I did mention about the transmission. It does a really good job shifting and basically keeping the power right at all times when you're going for a drive. But one of the things that I feel like that doesn't need to be changed is a new shifter. So it looks like a regular shifter, but it's not. If you're trying to just shift it, you go down, you realize it does nothing. So in order to go into drive or reverse, you have to push it to the left, then go down or up. So again, there's a learning curve there. And then there's no park. You have to press the button to park. So unfortunately, I'm going to throw that into the bad, because for many people that's getting into RX, they're going to be confused by that. Something else that's bad is something that shouldn't even be redesigned. Again, no idea why everyone is trying to do this. The door handles. The door handles, yes. On the outside, hey, they look like normal handles, right? You just want to go and pull it. Then you realize they're fake. They're in place. They can't move. So there's actually a button on the inside that when you're pulling on, it hits the button and then it opens the door. Okay. So you might be thinking, that's not such a big deal, right? But it's the same on the inside. You see these futuristic metal handles on the inside, and you want to go pull it, but that's not what you're supposed to do. You have to push down on it to pop open the doors, right? But what's the pulling for? Well, that's the emergency, because now everything is electronically opened. What if you run out of power? What if your RX dies in the middle of the road, right? So how do you get out? Well, that's what the pull handle's for. You can't pull it once, you have to pull it twice to open the door. So again, for people that are getting in for the first time, they're so used to pulling on a handle, they go pull on that and the door doesn't do anything. You hear it kind of unclick, but it's very frustrating. Also, what I'm gonna throw in here that's the bad is a combination of the heads-up display and the steering wheel. The heads-up display is optional. Lexus decided to integrate the buttons on the steering wheel with that heads-up display. So if you look at the buttons, there's on both sides, left and right, you have these arrows, and they're not marked. And underneath, there's these big buttons. And if you have your heads-up display turned on, then you realize that the buttons, they have different purposes. So on both the left and right side, if you press that toggle button on the bottom, then you'll see that you can switch between, like, let's say, your media and scrolling through various things, right? It's confusing. It's on both sides. And on the right side, it's more for your adaptive cruise control. You do have normal and sport driving modes. And in every other car I've ever tested, there's dedicated buttons or some kind of knob or scrolling wheel on the center console where you could adjust whether you're going to be in sport, normal, eco, snow, stuff like that, right? With this RX, they decided to integrate it into the steering wheel. So no one knows that there's even driving modes until you mess with it, right? So that's a huge, huge oversight. It just makes things so confusing. I just know that everyone that hops into a RX, they're going to press on those buttons and they're going to get confused on what they do. Also, something I've experienced during my drive is the driver attention system. So above the steering wheel, you see this little area, and that area is cameras like looking at you, right? Basically, a lot of cars has this feature nowadays, right? So if you're getting sleepy, you're not paying attention, you're on your phone texting, right? The car will warn you. But I find a lot of times when I'm just turning, right? I'm at a stop, I turn the steering wheel and that camera gets blocked. It thinks I'm not paying attention. So you get this weird beeps all the time. So just during my drive right now, I had that beep like 3 or 4 times when I'm in fact paying attention. It's just that the camera got blocked with the steering wheel and it's warning me. So that's also annoying. On the center console, this cover that goes over some USB ports and the wireless charger, that feels cheap. And inside the wireless charger area, that cover is cheap. It just doesn't feel right. Lastly, I want to talk about the ugly. There is one thing that really bugs me, and that has to do with this infotainment screen. So the climate control. Well, by default, you do see 2 knobs that's built into the screen. That's just for your temperature control, and then you have auto and then your fan speed, right? But there's more. Say you wanted to turn on your heated steering wheel or your heated seats or ventilated seats, or there's other little things that you can do, like say sync the front and the back and side to side, right? And there's other things that you can configure. But unfortunately, you can't control whether or not the climate control expands to more features or less. So for example, if you're in navigation, you can't get that expanded view of climate control. If you're in music or settings, it automatically comes up. But sometimes you don't want it to come up. You want it to go down. That is something I think Lexus can change, right? If they update the infotainment software, they could definitely change that. But I gotta throw that into the ugly right now because it just makes no sense that there's no dedicated button or virtual button that you can press to make that go up and down, and it just stays up forever. Now, as for pricing, the brand new RX350 starts around $49,000, a tad under. Now, if you opt for the hybrid version, the RX350H, you're looking at over $50,000 as a base price. And if you wanted some performance, if you want to go with the RX500H, well, that comes in a tad under $63,000. Later on, there will also be a plug-in hybrid, the RX450H Plus. But as for pricing, it's unknown at this point. So to conclude, I do think that the RX has been improved, but it's not perfect. And there are still others in this class that I feel like are just better. I think Lexus will still sell a ton of these, but I do think Lexus could have done more. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for my future review videos. Take care. Bye-bye.